now. Awesome. All right, everyone, welcome everyone to our third virtual event, Getting Involved. Let me switch slides here. Life Outside the Engineering Classroom. So my name is Mikey McCarrans. I work in the Office of Recruiting and Outreach in the college. I am joined by Melissa Dean. Melissa, if you want to briefly say hello.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa. It's great to meet all of you today.
Awesome. So yeah, great to have you guys. We have 4 staff members here and 3 current engineering students as well. So I do just want to take the time to thank you staff and students for being here. It'll be super helpful for all of you incoming students to get some more information on how to get involved. And while the circumstances aren't totally ideal right now with the whole COVID situation, this is the first summer we're putting on all these virtual events. So this is going to give you guys a great kind of introduction to how to get involved in the college, how to resource, how to meet people, and all that stuff. So I just do also want to say there is a chat function in this meeting. So feel free to type out your questions in there. I think it's on like the bottom right. If you have a question related to what one of our speakers is talking about, we'll see if we can get the speaker who's talking to answer that. We'll also have a dedicated 20 or 25 minutes at the end of this for a Q&A section. So if you want to hold off on your questions till the end, that's also totally fine. But yeah, just a reminder that we do have the chat. So if you want to type out a question during the presentation, to use that. Before I turn it over to our first speaker, I do just want to commend you guys for signing up for this. As I'm sure our students will talk about, getting involved is what really makes your whole college experience way more holistic. Especially as an engineer, grades are very important, but getting involved outside of the classroom is what you'll look back on and remember about college, and it's a great way to meet your friends. And it's really gonna, honestly, it's gonna be what you reminisce most about college, is what happens outside of the classroom. So appreciate you guys signing up for this. And so with that, I will turn it over to our first speaker, Dr. Boz Bowles. Boz is the Assistant Director for our Communications Across the Curriculum program and the Chevron Center. So with that, Boz, I will turn it over to you.
All right, well, thank you very much. So I am fortunate in that I get to introduce the team that I work with all the time. That includes Dr. Liz Melvin, who's the Director of Academic Affairs for the College of Engineering. Ms. Adrienne Steele, who is here with us today, and she's going to be talking as a part of this presentation in just a few minutes, so I'll let her talk about what she does and why you should know her. And then, of course, I'm the other person that works full-time in the Chevron Center. My name is Boz, and you can call me that. I run 2 programs here. One is Communications Across the Curriculum, and then the other one is the physical space of the Chevron Center itself. So a couple of things about that. So the Chevron Center is the home of Communications Across the Curriculum. Communications Across the Curriculum is a campus-wide organization that is aimed at improving communication skills in the disciplines. And so the idea is that things that you would learn in the classroom should be applicable beyond the classroom. So a lot of the things that we teach in these classes will help you with your communications, both on teams, professional obligations, in-class obligations. CXC really does cover all of those things. We do have a few specific programs. First of all, we have what we call the communication intensive courses. These are classes that focus on communications. I don't want you to get the idea that this is extra. Typically, these are classes that focus on projects. And these projects make it possible to get through certain skills that you're going to need to be able to have as a graduate if you go into engineering or construction management or computer science. The Chevron Center itself, this physical space, and if you can back up a couple of slides there, Mikey, please. That right there is what the Chevron Center itself, the physical space, looks like. It's home to CXC. So if you have questions about the CXC program and your communication skills, this is the place where you should go. It's also the place where you'll find a lot of the other programs like the Society of Peer Mentors, several scholarship organizations are there. We have supplemental instruction, all kinds of different things, study abroad, all kinds of things begin in the Chevron Center. Next slide, please. We also have a lot of cool stuff. Back to that 3D printer one. This right here is a close-up image of one of our specialty printers. This is an SLA 3D printer, but In addition to being a place where a lot of these programs are housed physically, the Chevron Center is set up to help you get through a lot of the classes that you'll be taking, whether they're CI courses or not. So we have things like a poster printer, a large conference room that is available for students and students only, 3D printers, things of that sort, 3D scanners, all kinds of gear and resources that will help you get through, like I said, these CI courses, but can also help you get through other things like projects that may be involved with extracurricular activities like the Society of Peer Mentors or diversity ambassadors or any number of other things that you'll be hearing about today, I'm sure. Go ahead to the next slide. CXC also has a rewards program, or I'm sorry, an award program called the LSU Distinguished Communicator Award. The idea of this is the work you do in improving your communication skills and the things you do in extracurricular organizations, whether it's something like a professional organization or something more, more recreational even. You're going to be involved in a lot of teamwork. You're going to be doing a lot of things with a lot of people that are not the same as everybody else with a similar degree. So one of the things that the Distinguished Communicator Award does is it gives you the opportunity to build a digital portfolio. In other words, a complement to your resume, so that one day employers will understand the experiences you've had in college and how they have made you a better potential employee going forward. And you get to be the one in charge of how you share this information. You work with an advisor of your choosing from the faculty, build a digital portfolio to show your experiences and the value of those experiences. And you can use that to hopefully get a job one day. The idea is that you're giving employers a concrete idea of the return they can expect from their investment in you as an employee. So that's the whole idea of the Distinguished Communicator Award. It rewards you for excellent communications and gives you an opportunity to show what you've learned as you go out into the job market. We also have a second level, something now called the LSU Communicator Certificate, which is similar to this, but it's a little bit easier to achieve, not quite as competitive as the Distinguished Communicator Award. But the idea is that you'll come away from LSU with something tangible that you can hold on to and share with potential employers or graduate programs or wherever you're planning to go from here, that will document and, like I said, a tangible thing showing that you have mastered or at least worked on improving your communication skills and therefore improving all the things that require communication skills. That's my bit. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Boz. Yeah, everything that Boz talked about is great to get involved with. Obviously, as an engineering student, we can communicate as engineers, but a lot of that is to fight the stigma that engineers can't communicate, which obviously is not the case. We have a bunch of engineers communicating right here today in this meeting. So thank you, Boz. And with that, I will turn it over to Roberto Champney. Roberto is the professional in residence with diversity initiatives. So with that, Roberto, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mikey. Again, I'm Roberto Champney. I work with the College of Engineering Diversity Initiatives, and I also help with retention. And as part of that, there's different things that we do in our office. I work with Miss Sarah Jones, who's not available today to come, and myself, and together we support different activities. Next slide, please. Right, so for instance, we support scholarships. We have scholarships that are part of our program, like the NACME Block Grant ExxonMobil Scholars. Today, actually, we have one of our scholars here today speaking. Ms. Mia Reed is an ExxonMobil scholar. We have Halliburton Scholars Program as well, and the Patrick F. Taylor Foundation Scholarships. And the nice thing about these scholarships is that there's not just about receiving funds to compensate for tuition or for fees or cost of living, that sort of thing. But we also strive to create opportunities for you to grow. So a lot of our programs involve workshops like in management, time management, leadership, and anything that we need, that we see are gaps in students, we try to create a workshop for that. So last semester, we've had a workshop, a 2-day, full-day workshop on how to use Excel and how to use how to do professional presentations and that sort of thing. So it's very, we have these programs available. So it's just a matter of, participating in them or, applying for them. and hopefully you can get selected. We also have other activities such as student organizations. Next slide, please. Here are some of the opportunities for leadership. We connect with organizations. Within the college, we have organizations such as diversity-focused organizations like Society of Black Engineers, Society of Hispanic Engineers, Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers, Society of Women Engineers, and our very own within the College of Engineering, which is called Diversity and Ambassadors and Engineering Diversity Ambassadors. And all of these organizations are opportunities to grow professionally as leaders because they allow you to participate, not only to give back to the community or grow professionally, but also learn from organizations. So if we go to the next slide, one of the points that I wanted to make is, through these organizations, we connect with corporate partners. Corporations are constantly getting in touch with us to connect with students. And these are the organizations to see the venues that we use to put them together. So organizations come to LSU and, they'll do workshops on how to prepare your resume, they'll do mock-up interviews, all sorts of, ways in which they can connect with you, get to know you, but also you grow as an individual. So it's a win-win when we have these corporate folks come together to LSU and connect with you. Not only do you grow, but they want to connect with you as well. So these are a lot of the things we do on campus. We also sponsor activities like Engineering Target Connections in the fall, where we have an open house so you can get to see all the student organizations within the college. There are, diversity focused organizations like the ones I'm talking about right now, but we also have professional or discipline oriented organizations that you're going to hear about in a minute. So all those things are events that we put together. We also put together summer camps. So if you have younger siblings, we have summer camps that are, take place during the summer. We have a REHAMS and Excite camps, which are, week-long introduction to engineering camps that we put together. This year, we're doing it all online because of changes, but, usually it's a live event. And all those things happen through our Office of Diversity within the College of Engineering. And I think the next slide has some contact information. If you wanted to connect with some of these organizations, you can reach them through there, or you can reach through us and we'll connect you. It's a very nice way to get involved. Again, all these organizations do outreach activities with high schools. They do elementary school science fairs.
Turn it off. How do I turn it
off? Outreach activities, that sort of thing. And also you get to grow as in terms of leadership. I mean, companies, the whole point of going to college is to get a job eventually, right? So through participating with some of these organizations, you also grow as a leader, and companies love that. They love to see that in your resume, to watch you grow. It's a great opportunity to be part of these organizations. And with that, I'll get back to you, Mikey.
Awesome, appreciate it, Roberto. And next we will have Adrian Steele. Adrian is our Assistant Director of Student Programs and Outreach. So Adrian, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. It's kind of weird that you can see me, but I can't see you, but hi. So what I do, all of us work with students, and our jobs kind of overlap a lot. Specifically, I work with a lot of the student leadership programs along with a team of people. So I advise the Society of Peer Mentors student organization. I work with the Chevron Leadership Academy. So a lot of things involving leadership and mentoring opportunities. And I work in the Chevron Center, as Boz mentioned. And I also work with a lot of K-12 outreach initiatives, specifically mentoring robotics teams and things of that nature. So there's a lot of different ways to get involved. And I've also been at LSU a long time. I've worked here over 16 years. So sometimes just knowing someone you can talk to ask questions is really helpful. So the first program I want to talk about before I get into the student orgs is our new freshman bridge camp that we're offering this year called Go Engineering. I'm wearing the shirt, there you go. And this is going to be as part of the Choose Your Adventure section of Welcome Week. So when Welcome Week starts to wrap up, we will get started. And I believe you guys should have all been sent, if you're in engineering, if you have a major declared in the College of Engineering, you should have gotten an email on Sunday with information on how to sign up for the program. The link is here, and I think they're going to put the link in the chat box for you in case you want to just go ahead and click it. It just sends you right to the application form. But it'll be like a 2.5-day program where you'll get to meet a lot of undergraduates in your major and be put on small teams to work on a real engineering or computer science themed design project. So you're going to get hands-on experience on what engineers really do, and you're going to make these connections on how to get involved. You're going to meet so many different students, both other freshmen like you in your major that you're going to be taking classes with, as well as the upperclassmen who were just in your shoes a year or two ago and can really give you some helpful advice. So learn about the resources, the opportunities, the different organizations that we have to offer. One thing that we don't really have a slide about is, I just realized it, is we'll have a student org event usually in the beginning of the semester, the first few weeks of school, where you'll get to actually see a student org fair where you can really interact with all of them. But in addition to this, we have a lot of different student orgs at LSU. So there's two different ways you can find out about different organizations to join. So the first way is to go to what's called TigerLink. And the link is up there at the top of the screen. You can just go to LSU homepage and search for TigerLink from Campus Life. And this will give you a list of every single student org that's at LSU as a whole. You'll have to sign in using your My LSU credentials, and you can put in anything in the search box. Say you really want to join an organization that does service. You can type in service, and any org that has that as one of their keywords, it'll come up and you can see what your options are. You can type in engineering and get a list of all the engineering student orgs. So this is a good resource for you if you just want to know what's out there in general. The next page that I'm going to share with you is specifically the College of Engineering's list of student organizations. And so this page you can find it going on the college page under current students, and then go to student organizations. And they're organized. The first part, these are all of the organizations that are multidisciplinary, meaning that you can be in any discipline, any major in the college. And the ones that follow that are specific to each different major. So there's some great ways where you can find out, and there's a link to all of them. You go to a website or a social media page and find out more about it. I will say though, and I'll ask the students to kind of maybe mention this too, is be careful. You should definitely get involved in at least one organization. Find one that you're really passionate about and put yourselves, spend a lot of time dedicating that. Join maybe 2 or 3 tops. Don't try to belong to too many things, especially at once, because if you do that, you can get really overwhelmed and then not have as much time for your school. So I would say try some things out, find what works best for you, and really dedicate your time to maybe 1 or 2 orgs at most. The next slide just kind of breaks down the different types of organizations. So there are, I think, about 300 or 400 at LSU as a whole, and about 30 or so in the College of Engineering. So we have the major specific ones, things that are, every single major has at least one, some have more than one. There are the interdisciplinary ones, which are for any major in the College of Engineering. And a lot of these are either diversity focused or service oriented or leadership focused and things of that nature. Not that the major specific ones aren't, but that's kind of the focus of a lot of the interdisciplinary ones. And then we have some of our special interest groups, such as Tiger Racing, and that's open to all majors, but you work on a Formula One race car, and we have a robotics org and things like that. So what I want to do next is, I could sit here and talk about this all day, but I think it's best, we all think it's best that you hear from the actual students who are the leaders of these orgs, and they can tell you a lot more about it. So I'm going to introduce 3 different students who are going to talk to you about the organizations that they are leaders of. If you'd go to the next slide, Mikey.
Adrian, before you introduce them, we have one question.
Oh, we have a question. Okay.
Yeah, so is the Go Engineering Camp in person or by Zoom? As of now, it's still planned to be in person.
As of now, it is planned to be in person. That is still the plan moving forward until we hear otherwise. And Yeah, that's all I can say right now because that's the information I have at this time. That's a really good question, but it is still planned to be in person. The numbers are small. We've reduced the amount of people who can join, so I feel like it might fill up quickly. If it does move to a virtual program, I believe we would communicate that, let people have a choice if they still want to do it, and probably open it up to a lot more students at that point. Good question. Any other questions? All right, so let's hear from some of our student organization leaders. So Henry's going to talk to you about one of the discipline-specific organizations for chemical engineers. And then Caroline's going to talk about the Society for Women Engineers. And then Mia will talk to you about both Society of Peer Mentors and one of the special interest groups, the Bengal Robotics. So take it away, Henry.
Thanks, Adrian. So yeah, I'm the president of the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, or ACHE is how we call it, which is a major-specific organization for the chemical engineers. However, I would say it's pretty representative of the different major-specific programs within the College of Engineering. So the AICHE is actually a national organization, and LSU has a student chapter. There's also a local chapter in Baton Rouge, which we work with for professionals in the field. And it's like kind of like the leading organization for chemical engineering professionals. So the goal of the LSU student chapter is threefold. So our primary focus, I would say, would be for networking opportunities. So we have weekly meetings typically on Thursday nights where we'll cater dinner, we'll have a different company come and do a presentation, and it gives the opportunity to meet some of the representatives from these companies, learn the difference between them, what they do, and get some good like face-to-face time interacting with those people. Secondly, we focus on professional development. So we do different programs throughout the year. For example, we host a sophomore camp, which is somewhat similar to the freshman style camps. However, it's to kind of get you more involved in the chemical engineering program in particular, where we do like resume workshops, mock interviews with different company representatives, and people actually get a lot of internships with the different chemical engineering companies through these types of programs that we host. And the final thing that we do is a little bit more informal, but it's just as the liaison between faculty to student and student-to-student relationships within chemical engineering. So I know, at least for me, most of my closest friends that I've made in chemical engineering have been through ACHE, and it also provides a good way to be able to get to know the faculty more through there. So some typical events that we host, in addition to our weekly meetings that we host on Thursday nights, we host other more fun events. So something that we'll be doing this year, which is the first annual, will be Chemi Semi. So we're actually going to be renting out a space for all chemical engineers, in addition to members of ACHE, to have kind of like a prom night of sorts, which should be really fun. We host a crawfish boil in the spring every year, where we have typically Marathon sponsors it, where you get free crawfish, interact with Marathon representatives, and get to hear more about the company. And also, I would say the highlight of the events that we host every year or attend would be the regional and national conference of ACHE. So the regional conference is the Southern Regional Conference, which is hosted at different locations in the Southeast. So this year it was at Auburn, and next year it's going to be in Kentucky. And it's a great opportunity to go meet other chemical engineers from different universities around the United States, and kind of get the feel for what other things are like out there. And secondly, we have the national conference. This is a really fun event where we compete in the Chemi car competition, which different chemical engineers join a small class, and they create a car that's powered by a chemical reaction. And we usually send a team that competes at regionals. And the past 2 years, we've done well enough to send a team to nationals. And we also send a team for the Chemi Jeopardy competition, which is Jeopardy with the theme of chemical engineering, which I was involved in last year, went to Orlando for the conference, a lot of fun. So I will hand it over now to, I think Caroline is next, speak about SWEET, right?
Hi, I'm Caroline Beeman. I am the new president of Society of Women Engineers at LSU. So SWE is mainly about empowering women in engineering. In the past, we have been mainly an organization of women, but we do have one guy who's in our club. He joined in the past year, and so we're really just open to, if you want to empower women in engineering, then you can join. We meet Wednesdays at 6:30, and similar to other clubs. We provide food at those meetings. We'll normally have company representatives come to talk about things like preparing for a career fair, or even to just tell you about their company and if they're offering internships or full-time positions. We also do service and outreach events. So we'll team up with local Girl Scout troops or do STEM days at schools, elementary schools, things like that. We have socials that are normally probably 3 or 4 per year, and sometimes we'll do it around Halloween, or we'll do it around Valentine's Day, and have different themes with those. But our 2 main events are Women Impacting Success in Engineering, which is in the spring, and that is kind of our main focus with SWE. And we have a fashion show where we show you what is appropriate to wear in professional settings, and we have a sit-down dinner, and representatives from different companies will come to network with you and just, you know, talk about whatever in kind of a more casual setting instead of at a career fair where you would network. And then our other big event is National Conference. And this year, Nationals is actually in New Orleans. It will be November 7th, I believe, somewhere around there, the beginning of November. And since it is in New Orleans, we are hoping to get a lot of people from the LSU chapter to go. And we normally get it funded, so you pay and then you get reimbursed after, so money should not be an issue for doing events like this. But that's pretty much everything for SWE.
Cool, appreciate it, Caroline. I will turn it over to Mia now for her to talk about Society of Peer Mentors.
Hey everybody, my name is Mia Reed. My major is mechanical engineering, and I'll talk to you about Society of Peer Mentors, or SPM. So we are a service-driven organization. Our 3 main focuses are robotics mentoring. We do first robotics mentoring in the Baton community. We do FTC, which is First Technical Challenge, in the fall, and FRC, which is First Robotics Challenge, in the spring. We also do the Freshman Bridge Camp, which is Go Engineering that Adrian just talked about a few minutes ago. All of our mentors are the ones who work that camp. It is mostly student run, as much as anything can be. So we'll be the ones leading your teams around. They'll have group leaders. We'll be the ones leading some of the presentations, like business etiquette or how to LSU. We also do K-12 STEM outreach in the community. So we go to different middle schools, elementary schools, high schools, museums, STEM nights. LSU holds a few events. And we do activities. We do STEM-based activities. We mostly have an activity for every major. Like one of the fun ones is snap circuits. So they have like little kind of like Lego pieces that hook together, and you can like charge a battery or make a fan go off. The kids seem to really, really enjoy it, and it gets kids interested in STEM. So all College of Engineering majors are welcome, but you do have to be in the College of Engineering. Some of our events, our major events, are the Louisiana Collegiate Design Competition, which we just had the 2nd one this year. It started in 2019. It's a really fun event. It's a day and a half. So on the Friday, we'll give you your design prompt, and on the Saturday, you'll design and build your contraption. It's students who compete, college students from across the area. So we have some students from Louisiana who come. We have high school students who come from around the area, and you spend the whole day designing. You compete in a competition that night. It's really fun. It's a good way to meet different students from around the state. And students at LSU that you've never talked to before, you get a group of your friends together, compete. I competed last year, but didn't get a chance to do it this year, unfortunately. We also do the first Lego League or FLL Fast Start, which is where we kind of get the kids going for their robotics season. They introduce the game, and we kind of start prepping them, giving them little classes on building, coding, things like that. It's a really fun event. If you're interested, you can go to our website, spmlsu.org, and you click join us under the more tab, and you can fill out a Google form to get your contact info. So SPM, we accept new members in the spring. We actually have a application process. You apply, and you have to interview, and then you'll get in. The application process isn't that It's kind of informal. We mostly interview to kind of give you practice for interviewing for future internships and jobs, and to give us practice interviewing to sit on the other side of the table, kind of see how it is. So it's really nothing to be afraid of, I promise. This, like I said, our website is here. And you can also email spmleaders@gmail.com if you want more information. And yeah, and I'll also be talking about Bengal Robotics. So Bengal Robotics is a special interest organization. It's open to any major across campus. You do not have to be a college engineering major. Actually, we had a sports administration major. We've had an environmental science major, just people who really like robotics. So anybody can join. There are 3 teams. There's a 3-pound combat robot, which is what it sounds like. 3-pound usually can do cooler things because the robot is smaller and less expensive. So they do 3D printing, different things like that. So if you like really want to get into CAD modeling, they do a lot of that. With the 30-pound combat robot, which is bigger. If you really like getting hands-on, like building with tools, this is a group for you. We also have the racing drone, which is also really cool. That one's more computer sciencey because there's a lot of programming that goes into it. They all have programming components though. We compete at different events. So the first event is the Greater Baton Rouge State Fair. We don't actually compete at that one. We mostly just do a demonstration. So we'll take out the 30-pound robots and kind of have them fight each other for people to watch. It's pretty cool. We also do Bengal Bob Brawl, which is the 30-pound combat robot competition that LSU puts on. So for mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, they have a senior design class that 30-pound combat robot is one of your options. And so it'll be the robotics club versus the senior design robots in that competition. Whoever wins that competition gets a all expenses paid trip to MomoCon in Atlanta in May to compete at the next competition. But we also sometimes go, it just isn't all expenses paid. And there's a few other competitions that we're trying to go to, but we're trying to raise money to get to them. If you want more information, our website is here. And if you're interested in joining, you can email our president, which is Talia Tepletsky. And that's her email also. Also, if you have any questions, drop in the chat.
Appreciate that, Mia. And thank you, Caroline and Henry as well. So now we are going to open it up for questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat. I guess while you guys are writing your questions, I will pitch a question to you 3 students. When you first got on campus, how did you get involved? What was the first step that you took to get involved?
I went to the organizations fair, like Adrian was talking about, and just found out what organizations are on campus. And of course, you know, this is focusing on engineering, but we have like a ridiculous amount of organizations, even not in engineering. I'm in a feminist club called Feminists in Action, along with, I'm in SPM with Mia, and I'm in the Industrial Engineering Club. So yeah, I pretty much just went to the fair and saw like what we had on campus.
What would you guys recommend? Tack onto that question on how many, when you talk about your club, like how much you can actually be involved in. Mia, I see you smiling.
Yeah. So I would definitely say to not overcommit yourself. Some clubs take more time than others. Like SPM, we do have a point system, so you do have to get a certain amount of points per year to be active. So our club is pretty involved. Others aren't. Others you can kind of show up when you want to. If you want to go to the meeting, if there's a company talking that you want to get to know or not. I made the mistake of joining too many clubs my sophomore year. It is a mistake that I have not repeated, because when you're juggling 4 or 5 clubs and also going to class, it is not fun. So definitely I am now in 2, 3 that I'm really dedicated to and spend most of my time doing. SPM, obviously, Bengal Robotics also, and SWE. SWE I'm really active in. So yeah, I definitely do not recommend more than 3 clubs.
I think some clubs, like she's kind of saying, do require more involvement. Like With SWE and with SPM, there's point systems. So for SPM to even stay in the club, you have to have a certain amount of points. And for SWE, if you want to go to certain events or run for office, you have to have a certain amount of points. But the industrial engineering club that I'm in is much more laid back. They keep track of if you go to meetings because some professors will give bonus, but they don't have as much of an active point system. So with that club, I can be involved, meet other IEs, but I know I don't have to commit to a meeting every week if I can't make it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I would say it's the same way for AICHE, where it's we don't have like a tally system or anything like that. As a freshman, I was mostly involved in that organization, but to go back to Sierra's question, I was also in Tiger Band my freshman year, so that sucked up a lot of time as well. And I do a lot of research on the side too. So I guess it depends on what else you're doing outside of the clubs, also outside of the classroom. But for me, I've just been most heavily involved in AICHE.
Cool, thank you guys. How do you guys recommend incoming students to get involved besides what you talked about?
Talk to other people, like upperclassmen who are already in orgs, who are in your major or something. That's how I found, the first student org I became really active in was the robotics organization. I ended up meeting somebody because I saw them working on it in PFT, and I asked them about it, and they invited me to their first meeting, and that's kind of how I started. And from there, it kind of just got attached. And I really like that club. The people in there are really nice, and everyone, it's a lot of different people. Robotics seems to draw a lot of people who don't seem on the outside that they have a lot of common, but once you get talking, like everybody has a lot in common, especially robotics. So yeah.
I think I lived in North Hall, which was the engineering college, residential college my freshman year. So a good way to get involved and like see what's happening is if you are living in that dorm or just living on campus in general, you kind of get firsthand access to a lot of things. And then another thing that I did my freshman year was join intramural sports with the UREC. So you can, do different activities and meet people a lot of different ways on campus.
Yeah, I would add on to that for some of the more major specific organizations. I kind of got to know people like in my class a lot better because you're sitting in class next to them a lot of the time and you can't really talk to them, but then you go to a more social event at the end of the day and you can actually get to know those people who are in your major specifically. So that was kind of the way that I met most of my friends within chemical engineering.
Oh, I definitely agree. Student organizations is how I met the majority of my friends in my classes, because that's kind of like I started going to org meetings, and then I started kind of seeing familiar faces in my classes, starting conversations, getting homework groups together, people I can actually ask questions to when I'm confused. So student orgs are a great way of building a network of students who can help you succeed.
Awesome, thank you guys. Anybody have any questions? It could be about student life. Even if it's not related to getting involved. Any questions in the chat? We do have a feature. One of our next 2 events will be about time management and transitioning to LSU. So that'll totally be covered at our 5th and final event. But I can pitch this question to you guys. How have you managed balancing your life outside of the classroom with what's going on in the classroom? And any advice on how to do that for them?
Yeah, while being a leader in these orgs too.
I personally write everything down. I have a whiteboard that I write down my schedule for the week. I have a full month calendar that I write down upcoming events, and I have like a planner to write down like school assignments. So that works for me, just like writing everything down and seeing what my week looks like overall whenever I plan out like my entire week. So that works for me personally.
I keep a really big calendar in Google Calendars or Outlook, and I put almost everything in there, probably except for homework assignments, but I put like major tests, papers due, and social events, all of that goes in my Google Calendar. And then for like homework assignments on the daily, I have like a to-do app on my computer that I'll put it in and check it off after I do it. And I make sure that I go back and check it to make sure that I get everything done.
Yeah, I guess my advice would be, I guess, a little bit less traditional, but so for me, I think one of the things that helped me prevent like burnout, I guess, with the level of like time commitment that I was doing is that in my sophomore year, I studied abroad for 2 semesters. And I think that like with the level, like when I was there, there was a lot less focus on like getting straight A's the whole time, having to do this, do that. It was like, I could kind of like relax and enjoy the curriculum and also enjoy my time studying abroad. So I think studying abroad, finding like something you can do for a semester to like kind of take your foot off the gas while still like learning something different is important to like not reach that burnout stage.
So I have a question now for our staff members that are on this call. If students, if you couldn't tell, that Adrian, Boz, and Roberto, and I think Sarah's on the call now too, really do enjoy working with their students, but I would love to hear from them, like, what is their most favorite thing about working with our current students?
So what's the favorite thing about working with students? I get the fun of seeing students change and grow over like the 4 or 5 years that they're here and getting to know them and being a resource. And when Boz was talking about the Chevron Center, something that we tell students all the time, and probably everyone on this call currently could attest to, is that the doors are open like all the time. And we have this community that we've built where, you know, anyone can come literally at any time. And, you know, you can just have someone to turn to talk. I have students come in my office and just want to vent and either scream or cry for a few minutes to get it out, and they do. And I love that I can provide that for them. So even if you're not able to do things like, we had a question on the chat earlier about if you can't do Welcome Week, are you really missing out? And it's like, well, if you can't do the Go Engineering program or some of these things at the beginning, you know, it does help you get a head start, but it's not the end of the world. There's other ways, like find ways to find your people. And I think all 3 students mentioned really good examples of that. If you're living in the residential college, or if you just see someone doing something cool in the building, walk through Patrick Taylor from time to time. As a freshman, you probably won't have any classes in there, but you know, there's a Panera Bread in there, you know, so you can come get lunch and just see. And if someone's working on a robot, just go up to them and say, this is really cool. What are you doing? And you never know who you're going to meet. So it's a lot of fun. And I had another point I was going to make and I forgot it. So maybe it'll come to me in a minute. I'll let Boz and Roberto answer the question now.
Since you mentioned the Chevron Center, I'll go ahead and jump in here. I've got to say that my favorite thing is how all of our programs have so much overlap that when I'm working with somebody like Mia, you know, when she comes and she's working with Adrian with the Society of Peer Mentors, I'm there to remind her to make sure she's taking pictures of what she's doing so she can put it in her digital portfolio for her Distinguished Communicator portfolio. And all of these things, just the way that there's so many overlapping programs and so much energy. I'll tell you, I'm probably the oldest person on this call, and being around all of that keeps me younger than I look. And I try to act that way, but sometimes more successfully than others. But yeah, the energy and the spark in the Chevron Center is palpable. And once you get in there, even if you don't know what you're there for, you'll figure something out. One of the 3 office doors or the 4 desks will have answers for you.
So for me, one of the things I enjoy the most is just helping students. I was a student once, and I knew I was clueless about a lot of things. So I enjoy, you know, helping them out, managing the process or dealing with some of the just random issues that happen. Like Adrian said, you know, sometimes students just come over with some random, you know, problems, and just helping them through, you know, find a solution through that. Because a lot of times, they get lost in the process. So I really enjoy that. I've also, you know, I'm an engineer by trade, and I've been in industry and came back a couple of years ago. So I enjoy, you know, sharing some of my experiences and, you know, what matters, what doesn't matter, and how, you know, help them, you know, grow professionally as well. So those things I really enjoy. And some of them, you know, have become good friends that, you know, after graduation. So I really enjoy that part of it.
Thank you all for that. We have a question about internships. Students, I don't know what your internship experience is like, but if you all have had any internships or you're in one right now, how did you get it? And if not, and if you haven't had one, how would you suggest somebody finds an internship?
So I guess I could take this question. I'm on an internship right now. Luckily, because due to COVID and all those things, the economy is kind of not the best, and so a lot of people did lose their internships this summer. But I was one of the lucky ones where mine was not canceled. How I got it was I applied to almost every internship I came across that sounded at least a little bit interesting. Internships are very competitive to get, so my big advice would be to apply anywhere you would be willing to work, honestly. Like that's the biggest thing. There are a lot of internships out there. If you can click around on like LinkedIn or Indeed or something like that, like go to specific company's website and go to their careers page and click around there. But apply. That's my big advice.
And how would you say having involvement, not just a good GPA, being involved, has that helped you?
Oh, most definitely. It's hard to be competitive in the job field if all you have on your resume is your education and nothing else. It's very, very important to have other experience outside the classroom. People really want a well-rounded employee. All the time in my interviews, which I've had a lot, I always get asked a leadership question or like a teamwork question, and I can pull from my experience in my student orgs. I can pull from experience on being an e-board member in student orgs. Like, this is giving you valuable life experiences that you can apply to interviews, which is really good. If you only have like your education on there, they probably won't even call you in for an interview. So
I think to add to that, I haven't had an internship, but one good thing about joining all these organizations is a lot of them go to conferences like we've talked about. So SWE will have the national conference in New Orleans this year, and Henry was talking about conferences that the chemical engineers go to. The Industrial Engineering Club has conferences. So a lot of times they'll have career fairs at those kind of conferences, and these companies are specifically looking for this major, if it's a major specific conference, or if it's like SWE, they're looking at SWE members to give internships or full-time positions or scholarships, like all kind of things like that. So I think just joining the club to have access to those extra things that you wouldn't have had if you weren't in a club.
And for me to add on to that as well, I did 2 internships with a company in Baton Rouge, Albemarle, and then I ended up realizing that I was more interested in research, which is kind of a similar application process for the summer jobs. But my biggest piece of advice I would say would be to get FaceTime with the company reps. So I know, like, I do a lot of interfacing with the companies that come present at AQ meetings, and they always ask me like, hey, can we get a meeting for the career fair so we can meet some of your students before we come to campus? So go into those events like that before the career fair, before you're officially like applying for a job, for them to like know who you are and get to know them a little bit better is always super helpful.
Thank you guys for that. We have another question about getting a lab job for the president's student aid job. I'm not familiar with that, if anybody is.
I can answer that one. You're going to have to apply for those jobs through Handshake. That is something that is changing with this coming semester. So a lot of the employers are going to be getting their job descriptions up probably a little later than they ordinarily would. And it may be the first time, a few people are going through this system. So allow for a little confusion, but it is going to be done through Handshake, which is the app through Career Services.
Awesome, thanks, Boz. And also on that note with Handshake, our next event will be career and internships. So if you want to sign up for that, we'll talk more about Handshake at our next virtual event. And I think Melissa put that link in the chat as well. We're going to wrap it up now. Thank you, students and staff, for being here and answering all those questions. And thank you, everyone who is here right now, for attending. I will leave these few pages on the screen for a little bit. If you do want to reach out to any of our staff members, here is their contact information. Adrian, Boz, Sarah, and Roberto, and me and Melissa. So definitely appreciate you guys coming on. I know these circumstances aren't super ideal, but like I said, we have 2 more events coming up, career and internships and time management and transition to LSU. So with that being said, super excited to have you guys on campus. Thank you for being here. Looking forward to seeing you guys at LSU. And as always, go Tigers.